Everyone, thank you for joining today. My name is Asawin Suebsaeng. I'm the senior political correspondent here at Zeteo. And today we are joined by Mr. Ayman Soliman. He is taking part in today's Zeteo Town Hall. And just a reminder to our participants, please send your questions in written form during this chat, because as we get rolling, we are going to start asking as many of them as we can. I'm going to do a brief introduction before Ayman jumps in here. For people who had followed the news, whether they were in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area or not, because this is something that made national news over the summer, Ayman was for years a children's hospital chaplain, a Muslim chaplain here in the Cincinnati area. For listeners and viewers who don't know this, I'm sitting in the Cincinnati metropolitan area currently because this is where my wife, my kids, and I reside. And he was someone who I don't think it is at all a stretch to say was beloved in this community. He had a lot of friends from all different walks of life because he became locally renowned for his work at Cincinnati Children's, a downtown, of course, children's hospital, for his work in counseling and comforting families of very sick children, including, unfortunately, in some cases, dying children. And all of that track record and all of those personal testimonials from all kinds of different people did not stop Donald Trump's ICE from taking him in, doing a routine check-in in July. I can walk to where they took Ayman. That's how local this story was to me and where I live. And he was jailed at Butler County Jail for 73 days, and at one point held in what he and his attorneys described as solitary confinement. Some people might say it was isolation. We can talk about that later. That's sort of a distinction without a difference at this point. And as you can see today, he is with us talking on this town hall. He is a free man. And that is largely because his friends and his allies, some of whom he'd never met before in the local Cincinnati and Ohio community, stood up for 73 days straight to tell the Trump administration, you will not deport our friend back to Egypt, a country where he says he faces credible threats of death. You will not take him without one hell of a fight. And today, he's free, even though the administration, both in court and publicly, whether DHS or other parts of the government, tried to smear him as essentially a terrorist or terrorist sympathizer. We can get into that later. They threw a lot at him. They tried hard to deport him back to Egypt, and it didn't work. And one of the reasons I want to talk to Ayman today, and why I would like to get you guys to ask him some questions, is because his story isn't just his story. It is a story of a community that came together and resoundingly and constantly spoke up on his behalf, and it worked, at least in the sense that he is currently walking free. It's an example of how ordinary people, when they decide to stand up to a fascist, lumbering behemoth, do not always lose. And I think it is a very instructive and fascinating story of the current bleak times we're in. And with that introduction, I think I'll hand it over to Ayman. Ayman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Swan, for having me. I appreciate the kind invitation and the good introduction. I also appreciate very much your very first article that you wrote about my case. Somebody passed it on to me in jail, and it really helped me a lot. It was a very well-written article, and I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. There was a lot to discuss. I doubt we'll get to it all because we only have about 30 or 45 minutes. But let me start by asking you, what were the moments that you recall most when you were jailed in Butler County for 73 days? What were the lowest lows when you felt the most amount of hopelessness, when you thought the Trump administration would get perhaps what they desired in your case? And what were the moments of hope, and why? what were the moments when you realized how many people had your back and that maybe Donald Trump and Kristi Noem's DHS were not going to win this time around?
Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share, and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism.
To be honest, there were many of these low moments and many of these high moments and moments of hope. But yeah, every time we had a court hearing, and I saw how aggressive and how persistent the government was in their attempt to twist the facts that they had no case, and how they kept bringing new allegations that they had no evidence of. They were all low moments. I felt like it's not a mistake. This is an attempt of the government to remove me at any cost. But the lowest moment, honestly, I had, ironically, was only 18 hours before I get released. I get released on Friday, September 19th at 1 p.m. Around 9 p.m. on Thursday, while we were preparing for my final hearing, scheduled on September 25th, I got some information, some communication from outside that really hit me too hard. I heard that the federal, an immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud Khalil should be removed. And I know that Mahmoud Khalil's case was a big case, and his legal team was some of the best in the country. His case was much easier. I don't think the government accused him of being a terrorist, although they hinted to that as supporting, terrorist organizations. So at that moment, I felt like we're going towards the final hearing. And honestly, I had also some conversation with one of my legal team members while I got very frustrated because I felt like the outcome that we expected from the immigration court was not that good. So 18 hours before I got released, and it was the lowest night I remember, and I went to bed. Took me too long before I fell asleep. And in the morning, around 12:30, I got called to pack up my stuff and leave. So that was definitely the lowest moment. As for the moments that got me hope, I recall many of them, of course, but one particular moment was at midnight, the first night I got detained. I got detained around 11:30, 12 noon at the Department of Homeland Security office in Blue Ash, Cincinnati. And I got transferred to the Butler County Jail around 2:30 p.m. I got held in a freezing room for 12, 13 hours before they took me to my cell around 3 a.m. But in the middle of the night, around 12 midnight, when I got called out of this freezing room to fill some papers, some forms, they call it booking, an officer came to me and said, Mr. Soliman, I'm sorry this is happening to you. And I thanked him, and he said, I wanted to let you know that there are a lot of people participating. I was watching the news at 11 p.m. as I was coming to work, and I saw a lot of people protesting. And it was very surprising to me because I expected nothing to happen. But basically, the loving and kind and courageous people of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky gathered at 3 p.m. In a protest and a press conference in front of Blue Ash. That gave me hope that I will not be forgotten like the tens of thousands of people. Along the 73 days, I got over 760 letters of support from people, 99% of them people I never met, I never heard of. They just heard my story and they wrote very, very powerful letters where they told me that you will not be forgotten, you belong here, we're going to be fighting for you until you will walk out free.
I want to remind our attendees to please submit their questions. And thank you so much for joining us. And Ayman, I'm going to dive right into this and ask a first question I see here. Quote, how does Ayman feel about the United States after being illegally put in jail? Does he want to stay? End quote.
For me, when people mention the United States, two things come to my mind. This government that intentionally targeted me, smeared me, labeled me as a terrorist, and worked hardly to deport me from this country, although they knew that I was here legally and I never broke any law. And how I feel about that, of course, I hate that. And this government made me question if I ever feel safe in this country, or if I will call the United States home. The other thing that comes to my mind when we say the United States is the United States people, the courageous, brave, kind individuals that showered me with love and support, that stood up for me and for justice only a few hours after I got detained, and they never wavered, never stopped advocating for me until their noise paid off, their advocacy paid off. And for those people, I feel that I belong here. When the government simply wanted me to believe, she wanted to convince me and convince tens of thousands of people that they don't belong here because of their skin color or their religion or whatever views they had. These people stood up and proved practically that I do belong here, and they were serious about standing for justice. For those people, I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful, I can't thank them enough. I owe them everything. They saved my life, and they made me feel I belong here, and I can confidently say, although I'm not certain if I'll call the US home, but I definitely call Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky home today and forever.
When I first started reporting on your situation back when I was at Rolling Stone magazine, I think in July, I started hearing from multiple people that you had told them and you had told the guards at the jail in Ohio, where you were held for 73 days, that if you got out of here and if the government did not successfully rip you from the state of Ohio, that you would want to go back to that jail to be a chaplain to those who were jailed there, including some people you had gotten to know behind bars. Is that still how you feel? Is that still what you want to do? Are you going to do that?
Absolutely. Ironically, one of the reasons I got actually detained, one of the reasons I got my asylum status revoked is I sued the government in 2021 for discrimination as they deprived me from my right to get a job that I loved as a chaplain at the Department of Corrections in the state of Oregon. So when I was detained, although it was a very low moment, it was devastating, traumatizing, and I felt like this is over. They're going to send me home and I'll get killed in Egypt. But I decided to show some support to the inmates. Thankfully, I speak Spanish, and the majority of people there were from South America. So I could really connect with them, and I provided support as much as I can, gave them a listening ear, and recognized and acknowledged their pain and their suffering, and listened to their stories. And one night, I did that all the time. I would sit on a table with other people when we get a chance and just listen to their stories and support them. And I tell them, you're amazing human beings. You don't deserve that. We don't deserve that. It's the government. One morning, actually, a kind officer who was leaving his shift came, knocked on my door, in the morning, and I said, there's something I would like to tell you before I will go home today at the end of my shift. And I said, yes. He said, I really see how much you care about the people here in the jail, and I see how much they love you, and I feel like people are different when you are close to them. And I'm asking you, hopefully you will be out, because I see a lot of people advocating on your behalf. I want you to come back to the jail to support these inmates. And I told him, actually, this is what I hope I can do. I'm not sure if I'll be out. It seems like it's too dark, but I will definitely do that. Right after I came out of jail, this was one of the biggest things I was thinking of, and I already filed a form, an application to be authorized to go visit these inmates in jail. Actually, 4 or 5 of my friends, when I was in jail, I encouraged them to do that, and 4 of them are visiting these jails right now, providing support to these inmates in multiple jails, not only the Butler County, and I'm working on my application. I know it might be difficult for the Butler County jail to allow me to go back, because the sheriff is mad at me because of so many interviews where I exposed the violations that I faced and many other inmates face. But this is something I'm seriously considering.
Megan asks, you are a man of faith. Was your faith shaken at all after going through this experience?
I think my faith got much stronger. I was never closer to my faith as I was during this detainment. It definitely was a big test to my faith, to what I believe. I knew that God had a plan and I trusted it, but I could say that my faith has never been stronger than it was during these 73 days. My relationship with God has never been better. I would say I lost hope sometimes. I'm a human being, but I never lost faith. And as a Muslim, I believe that God has a wisdom, and there is always something good coming of every situation, even if we see it as evil or bad. I trusted that. I trusted there is something good. Even if I got sent back to Egypt and get killed, I know that there was something good in that. That might be the best ending. So I never lost faith. My faith was strong. I probably lost hope in many of these low moments.
I do not want to spend too much time going over the particulars of the case and details that you can read in news articles about what happened, because don't have that much time. So I don't want to waste the audience's time here. But I will give a little note of background that you have said that you would face political persecution and potential death if sent back to Egypt because you were a critic of the despot who had run the country, who has been running the country, who has been called by Donald Trump jokingly my favorite dictator. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just in case some people in the audience weren't clear, if there were anything you would like to know about him or his case, it is readily available online, including in my own reporting. Sorry to give you the Cliffs Notes version there, but we have to move on with some audience questions. This anonymous attendee is beginning with a comment and then a question. Ayman is so special. I can feel his kindness, warmth, and just how gentle his soul is. The people he works with are lucky to have him. Also, he seems so resilient. What is the one lesson you feel that humanity needs to learn in these challenging times?
The amount of love, solidarity, and kindness I experienced in this traumatic event was really overwhelming. I feel the pain that I had to go through, that feeling alienated, feeling othered, and feeling unappreciated just because you're different was so painful. But the amount of love and kindness and support I received will make me feel loved until the last day of my life. The lesson I could actually get from that is we are very strong when we are together. We are people can do a lot. My case is a great concrete example of what people can do when they get together. Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and many people all over the country got together in in a very, very strong show of solidarity. The government, from day one, even before I got detained, even before they revoked my asylum, considered me as an enemy because I dared to sue the government for persecution. But when people came together, they made a change. I'm free today because some courageous people stood up, organized, made noise. Every little thing matters. Every little thing can make a difference. The lesson we get is we're stronger together. And America is not racist. We have a bunch of racist people. They're just loud. So you guys are stronger together. Keep doing the work you're doing. Keep advocating. And we will win this battle.
One thing I thought was interesting when I started reporting on your case is that the Department of Homeland Security was going out on social media saying that Ayman Soliman is on a terrorist watch list. That's what the media is hiding from you and refusing to tell you. And I always thought that was funny because well, not haha funny, but the Department of Homeland Security knew that not because of some secret FBI file they had, but because you had put out that accusation in the public domain in a lawsuit, I believe when Joe Biden was president, against the feds. If you are a terrorist sleeper agent or some secret undercover terrorist operating in the Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area, it is a little bit weird that you would out yourself in that way, which is one thing that I always found super suspicious from the beginning, that they were trying to smear you with something that you had put out there because you were trying to challenge in a court of law. That is not exactly what a Muslim Brotherhood sleeper cell agent in the United States trying to like get up to no good in Cincinnati would typically do. But the administration ran with it, including in a court of law. And it got really despicable, really, really flimsy, even for them, as far as I could tell, to the point where they ended up crying uncle and letting you go. And this is the administration that is still fighting to send out Kilmore Abrego Garcia to, I don't know, whatever country he's not from. Did you or your attorneys ever get any communication as to why specifically Trump's Department of Homeland Security and the lawyers for the government gave up after 73 days?
Honestly, no one knows, and I'm very curious actually to know to get an answer to this question. I think it's multiple of reasons. This is my own view. Together with, I think my attorneys will agree on that. I think it's multiple of factors, but it all began with people speaking up. One of the amazing things that people did was keeping my name, keep saying my name out loud, keeping my name and my story alive in the media. If you noticed, I was on the news almost every single day. I was on an article, on a TV report, on a podcast. People were repeating my name, so that actually was very important to keep my case alive. While the government wanted to hide and wanted to disappear my name into their documents and filing and papers, people kept repeating my name, and they became very, very creative, like having people write banners and hang it on the bridges, or using chalk to write my name on sidewalks, prayer visuals, writing petitions to the governor. They kept doing that all the time. So this is one factor, that people did their advocacy. Second thing was people addressed the elected officials, politicians. One of the elected officials said they got an unprecedented number of letters, emails, and phone calls on asking them to intervene. And he actually wrote an article on one of the local newspapers talking about this.
You're not talking about Congressman Greg Landsman,
yes,
are you?
Greg Landsman, yes.
Yeah,
And
a Democrat I think he's my congressman to be.
Yes, yes. And he said he made statements. He made phone calls. He was very, very active in this. And I don't think without the role of politicians, the case wouldn't have gone that far. The third thing is the reason the government gave up was in immigration court. because there was no case to begin with. First, they accused me of providing material support to a Tier 3 undesignated terrorist organization. And they came on to the very first hearing on immigration court, changing the charges. Because basically they couldn't find some evidence to support this argument. And also the very evidence they used, which were academic articles written by some researchers, these very same people wrote articles, wrote papers, statements, refuting what the government said in their papers. So I think it's a mix of all those things, but it all goes back to the advocacy and the noise that people made. The government would never say why they gave up and let me out. I call it a miracle, and many people consider it a miracle.
Are you considering any form of legal action against the government or individuals who did this to you or smeared you in public or lobbed pretty wild accusations against you?
To be completely honest, although I know I have every right to do that, and these people should be held accountable, but I don't think I'm in any place or position right now to do that. I could see that my life was at risk, my very life, my very safety, my very right to life was at risk because I saw the government before. This government does not really care about human rights, does not care about the law, does not care about the Constitution. They could actually bring other charges and accuse me of anything again. They made a case of nothing before, they are able to do that again. So I don't think it's safe for me to do that, but that does not mean I might not go back and rethink this in the future.
One more quick question right now from me before I get back to audience questions. I asked several of your friends, colleagues, and former colleagues this question while I was reporting on you during those 73 days. If Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, any of these guys were sitting in front of you right now, what would you say to them about not just what they are doing to you, but what they are doing and their policies in other respects? Before you get to answer that question, I will tell you that there were a number of your compatriots who responded with incredibly salty language to that question. What would be your answer?
I will say three things. One, I will ask them where their grandparents came from. All of them actually came from immigrant families. Everybody in this country is immigrant except for the Native Americans. So they were immigrants one day. And if they claim the right to decide who should stay and who should leave, I think the Native Americans have the right to decide if they should stay or should leave. So with all immigrants, it just depends on who came first. The second thing I would tell them is they claim that they are deporting the worst of the worst, the criminals, those who were here illegally and undocumented. I was none of those. I have 0 felonies in my criminal record. I was here legal. I was legal from day one. I was documented from day one, and I did everything right. I followed the rules. So if they think deporting people illegally against the law and the Constitution will make America great, they're wrong. What made America great in the past, what is making America great today, and what will make America great tomorrow is the diversity, is that it was the land of the free, the land of opportunities. The third thing I will tell them is America has never been divided by an administration as it is divided right now, and that is because of the racist policies. And if they really want America to be a strong nation, they have to stop that.
To go back to something that you alluded to earlier, the Trump administration, as they conduct this campaign of what I would very seriously deem as ethnic cleansing, basically, that's what the policies are geared towards. I don't think the term mass deportation, as distasteful and ugly as a term as that can be, fully summarizes the character of what's being conducted right now by this government. The campaign that they're waging largely depends, largely, not entirely, but largely depends on enough median voters and American citizens, normal mom and pops, not caring enough to do something or to stand up and say something when their neighbors, their communities, their fellow people in the country, even if they do or don't have the right papers, are rounded up and taken away. That is what the federal government right now is counting on, that enough of you don't say something or do something peacefully in response to that. So with keeping that in mind, one anonymous attendee asked, "How do we help those who don't have your profile and your name?" Because as you put earlier, you have strong reason to believe that the reason, maybe not the only reason, but the reason you were not disappeared to Cairo or somewhere else in Egypt is because enough normal people said, "No fucking way." My words, not yours, of course. So,
What can we do?
and the vast majority of people who are being disappeared right now, sadly, may not have that. So, how do we help those who don't have your profile and your name?
Unfortunately, the numbers are increasing every day. I think I was blessed and lucky enough that I had enough support from kind and courageous people in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. I think what we can do, I can think of 3 or 4 things. One, first thing is check on your neighbors. This is the first thing we should do right now. Many people actually are not leaving their homes, even for critical reasons. I was in contact with a physician at Cincinnati Children's, a colleague of mine, who told me that they noticed a massive decrease in the number of the children that come to the ED. We're not talking about the outpatient clinic where people can go whenever they have time, but people go to the ED when they have to be in the ED. He said we have a massive decrease in the number of patients that come, which means some families know for sure that their kids are too sick and they need to go to the ED, and unfortunately they can't make it. That shows you how scary they are. Many stopped going to their work. Some cannot find some food to eat. And I was following some Facebook that was posting things related to the government shutdown and guiding people to some local pantries to get some food. And some people shared that some of their neighbors who were actually immigrants didn't have food and they couldn't even leave their home to go to the pantry to get some food. So first thing I advise is to please check on your neighbors regularly, give them some, they might need to get some support and some assurance that they will be safe. The second thing is there are so many organizations that work to support immigrants. Please reach out to these organizations, volunteer, raise money, post about them on social media, attend their events. This will definitely help. Third, the government is not actually targeting, in my own opinion, this government will not stop after even if they reported every immigrant, every person of color. I think this is just a beginning. This government is targeting everyone who is different than them, who think differently than the way they think, who sees America different than the way they see America. The very limited, narrow-minded, right-wing Christian nationalist view. They will start with immigrants, but they will come after every single one who is different. That is, now they are smearing the liberal Democrats. This is their enemy right now. They're being targeting these people. They have been smearing them. I don't think they will stop there. I never thought it was happening, and it happened to me. So we need to raise our voice. We need to post more. We need to share the stories of this injustice. Third is let's get ready for next elections in November. This is a country that decided to respect the democracy and voting until today. So we have seen the impact of this crackdown on immigration and this injustice on the elections that happened this November. Let's prepare for next November, and let's vote them out. This is going to be a big goal, and it will definitely make a big impact on the immigration thing and all the other issues that this government brought to this country.
Everybody, since we're nearing the end of this, remember to keep sending your questions, please. I can see we have some new ones right now. Before I get to that, I just want to clarify something you said earlier about speaking up with regards to your case and tens of thousands of others. I want to emphasize the degree to which people spoke up in your case. There is someone, I don't know if she's on this chat right now or not, but I hope I'm not mispronouncing her name. Reverend Elizabeth Diop. She is a friend. She's a friend of yours who worked at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, a place I've been multiple times, given that my children and my wife reside in this area. She was one of two chaplains who were fired from Cincinnati Children's because they publicly spoke up in your defense during your jailing by the Trump administration when the hospital was trying to basically tell its staff, we don't get involved in this stuff. Please do not talk about this. Leave this up to the communications department, which was saying barely anything, in my opinion, or anything of value one way or the other. So they were fired for violating that rule. I spoke to Elizabeth shortly after that happened because she had spoken out to the media and on social media. And she told me, among other things, Ayman's worth it. I lost my job, but I kept my soul. So the idea that when we're talking about so many of these cases across the country, there are a lot of normal people, everyday, average Americans, who are willing to actually put something on the line and lose something when it comes to their communities and their neighbors being raided by this rather grotesque administration that is going to soon be entering its second year in power. Sixth year, if you count the first 4 years of the Trump presidency. But I digress. From an anonymous attendee, what would you say to the many Muslims who voted for Trump thinking he would be better than Kamala Harris?
Before I answer this question, let me have a brief comment. Of course, to thank my dear friend and former colleague, Lizzie Diop. She is a manifestation of courage. She is a brave woman who not only lost her job, Lizzie dedicated her entire life after I get detained to advocate on my behalf. She used all her social media to talk about me. Many people sent me letters in jail telling me that I knew your story from Lizzie Diop. So I'd like to thank her for that. And without the sacrifice of people like her and my other colleague, Adam Allen, who also lost his job for speaking up for me, 15 people got arrested and taken to court because they protested for me on the Roebling Bridge and brutalized by the Covington Police Department. For all of those, I wouldn't be free today without these sacrifices, and I'm so grateful, and I'll always be indebted for this. As for the to answer your question, I think people need to speak up. People need to do their best. They need to realize that what is happening right now is not normal. Is again is a kind of situation, and we need to all get together and speak up against it. As for the Muslims, sorry, I missed this part of the question. As for the Muslims who voted for Trump, I think they made a huge mistake. I know voting for Trump or voting for Biden wouldn't have changed the outcome. The Muslim vote is very minimal. I don't think it made any impact. Trump became a president because of the Democrats. But that does not justify or tolerate what these Muslims did. The man was very clear in his message, in his campaign. He was coming after immigrants, and we know he repeated multiple times that he hated Muslims. He said, Islam hates us. That's what he said, literally said, in public, in some of his rallies. So the man was very clear in his promises. Unfortunately, these Muslims were very short-sighted. I know the Biden administration needed to be reminded that they committed a huge crime by participating in the genocide in Gaza. They enabled it, they funded it, and they needed to be held accountable. But I think electing and voting for Donald Trump made things worse, and they made a wrong decision. Unfortunately, they were mostly led by some clergy and religious people, and we clergy we're not politicians. We should have listened to the seasoned, experienced politicians who all warned it, although they disagreed with the Biden administration, but they still asked the people to be wise and said, we can actually solve this without getting a fascist government with Donald Trump.
J. Ray says, thank you for sharing your experience and its teachings. Mackenzie McGuire says, you were detained during the Cincinnati summer. We know that keeping the detention rooms freezing is a law enforcement interrogation tactic. And we know that they kept you in solitary or isolation. Did they also keep the lights on at all times too? These are all considered acts of torture on their own. How do we make politicians realize this?
As for the light, the rooms were freezing all the time, and we had to get the toilet paper, soak it in water, and actually use it to lock and clog the air-conditioned fans. No, the lights were not on the whole time. The lights would go off around midnight and turn it on again at 5 a.m. unless there is something. If we are asked to give the bed sheets or new uniform, then they will turn the lights on. But there is a quiet time between midnight and 5 a.m. What was the other part of the question? What can we tell politicians?
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'm actually going to move on because we are bumping up towards the end of this town hall. But I want to get one more question in. One of our attendees asks, thank you, Ayman, for sharing your experience with us so candidly. It is an honor to hear you speak. What advice would you give to other Muslim men, especially the young, who have been unfairly targeted and or incarcerated? How will you advise them to respond and behave? And for those of you who asked your questions, I didn't have a chance to get to them. I greatly apologize, but I think after your answer here, we're going to have to wrap it up.
So she wants me to say something to the incarcerated Muslims or incarcerated people.
What advice would you give to other Muslim men, especially the young, who have been unfairly targeted and or incarcerated? How would you advise them to respond or behave?
I would say, one, they need to really work on the relationship with their faith, because their faith will be a great source of support. We know that Muslims are targeted before Trump, and they will be targeted after Trump. This is something that we have to deal with. These are the consequences of 9/11, and Muslims have been struggling with for too long. So having a good faith and having a good relationship with their faith is important. The second is we need to know our rights, so we know to know how to defend it. We need to be close to our community and mobilize our community to respond to the Islamophobia and Muslim hate. It's beyond immigration. It's beyond targeting Muslim young people. Our community needs to work on that as a whole. We need to also build bridges and be close to the other communities, because we are all in this struggle together. My case was a great example of how people of all walks of life, faith and no faith, stood together and could agree and work together in one case. Unfortunately, Muslims have to deal with that for a while. It is systematic for too long. It's been systematic for too long. That does not mean we should give up. We should just keep fighting back, keep advocating for our rights, and stick to our faith and our principles. And we need to do that in the most civilized and most peaceful way. Injustice against us should not lead us to do anything that is against the law, something that will put you or put your community at risk. We need to use the legal means to defend ourselves and advocate on our behalf. And hopefully one day we will look at these days and say, one day Muslims were targeted and we felt persecuted and our rights were violated. And now we are strong enough to just remember these days as part of the past.
I want to give a quick shout out to my former University of Cincinnati student, Lucas, who was actually among the 15 who you said were arrested on that bridge. Maybe you'll get to meet him one of these days. But on that note, Ayman, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was illuminating for all of our listeners and viewers who tagged along. And please don't forget to follow and subscribe to Zeteo. And Ayman, we will talk soon. Have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Swen, and thanks for your audience, and thanks for all the work that Zeteo is doing towards free press. Thank you very much.
Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zeteo.com. Your support matters.